We are halfway through the work week. That's right, everyone. It is Wednesday, which means we get lunch bunch today at Retro Metro. People, they'll win lunch bunch. You can sign up. Go to KSGF.com. If you are a winner, then you get to bring 5 people with you and join Sarah and me for one of the best lunches that you can possibly have in the area. And we've in the past, people who aren't necessarily the winner, but came along with the winner, friends, coworkers, family, like, so what do you guys do this every month? We're like, we get to do this every week. Every Wednesday, we get to have lunch at Retro Metro. And the winners and the friends they bring with them, they always say, thank you guys so much. And I'm like, well, first off, thanks, Retro Metro. But secondly, thank you, because if you didn't win, then we wouldn't get free lunch either. So
That's right.
we actually, when you win, you think, man, this is really great. I won. But we win every week, and so we're the ultimate winners. It's like the Great Escape.
I know.
It's,
we got a fun job.
We have a great job. Speaking of, I don't know if you saw this on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. I'm sure you did not. You ready for this text that came in?
Yes.
Came in yesterday. Sarah, this is to you.
Okay.
Are you worried about where this is going?
No.
You should be.
Uh-oh.
No. I want to give you, I want to give a shout out to you. I'm a morning show producer and board operator in San Antonio, Texas. And I want to give you props for how good of a job you do. I know how hard it is because we don't get a lot of recognition. So from one morning producer to another, tip of the cap for the job you do, Sarah. Look at that.
Thank you.
In San Antonio. I love San Antonio.
I don't think I've ever been.
Oh, you should go to San Antonio. San Antonio, honestly, is one of my favorite cities. I haven't been there in years and years and years. And I know that, people, the Riverwalk. I do. I love the Riverwalk. And I've never been a huge fan of Mexican food, but down there, there's just something about it. And I'm imagining it's because people would say, well, that's more Tex-Mex and whatever it is. I don't know. It is so good. You should definitely go.
It is
to
interesting.
San Antonio.
I'm just such a traveler, and I haven't been there. So I'll put it
Yeah,
on my
that
list.
is. Yeah, you will be glad. And of course, the Alamo.
Mhm.
Last time I was there was a IMAX across from the Alamo on one side, and then catty corner there was a Haagen-Dazs. Those are the two things that I remember being there in the vicinity of the Alamo. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful city. And so, yeah, shout out to whomever that is.
Thank you.
That producer down there. I wonder who that is.
I don't know.
Perhaps they will provide more information. All right, so Friday, we also have the Friday Road Show, of course. And that is at Scramblers. Love for you to come by and join that. And then I didn't mention, but Retro Metro. We do have our happy hour at Retro Metro as well. And that is a time when we just get together and have drinks, have food, have a really good time. And it is come and go as you please. The Hunter Biden trial is underway. And there was one aspect of this that I cannot believe that it failed to capture my imagination. And that is the Bidens ultimately, when it boils down to it, they are white trash. They're white trash. Simply because you put suits on them and they get cush jobs and are elected officials, or, you got one that's an elected official and then the other, have all these connections. That does not mean that they're not white trash. The Clintons were white trash. They still are white trash. And the Bidens are white trash. And they are beyond just white trash. They are very Jerry Springer-esque. Just look at the family tree if you can follow it. And I did not think about that. You have a Jerry Springer-style white trash family, and you have a court trial. And already, some of that has been on full display with Hunter Biden's current wife screaming at somebody else that happened to be there, not there as part of the trial, but just an observer. So you've got that style of things going on. I love this headline too, which is just once again synonymous with the Biden family. Hunter Biden confronted by his sugar brother's daughter who demands stop taking advantage of my father. Now, did you follow that? Like just about every relationship story that comes out of the Biden family, you have to write it down and get a pen or pencil and try to draw the lines and make the connections in order to understand, all right, now wait, who is this person to this person? Because they like to swap wives, they like to do this and that and so forth. And then ultimately, you see in emails, they hate each other. I mean, the names that they all call each other, I mean, these people are absolute gems. But, of course, if you listen to the media, they're just a family they're wholesome. They're like the Waltons, the Bidens. They're the modern day Waltons. And everything that Joe Biden has ever done, it's just because he loves his family so much. So there's that. Then there is the executive order on the border, which is going to and is already panning out about as well as the Biden campaign / administration's attempt to straddle things when it comes to Israel, trying to some degree, please both sides or to some degree not tick off both sides, only to do the opposite. And that's what we're seeing with the border. We are getting everything from on the right to, noting it for what it is, and that is just more of the same. And then you have some of the Democrats on the left who are accusing him of being a xenophobe, and he is no better than racist Trump. And so he is once again, in beautiful fashion, doing what Joe Biden does best, what it is that Barack Obama famously said, and that is never underestimate the ability of Joe to F things up. Probably one of the best presidential quotes in existence, at least for modern day. Pyramid Roofing Company talk at text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update. The first alert forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals from Color 10. Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, partly cloudy, 81 for a high today, clear 60 tonight. Tomorrow, sunshine to 83. Friday, kicking off the weekend with sunshine and a high near 84. Okay. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. First son Hunter Biden's criminal trial kicked off in earnest yesterday, beginning with opening statements before hearing from the case's first witness, a special agent with the FBI. Jurors heard testimony and opening statements for more than 7 hours yesterday, including Biden's defense team setting the stage that his purchase of the Cobra Colt .38 revolver on October 28 was a hurried purchase promoted by employees at the gun shop. Oh, it's the gun shop's fault. See, hey, this is a reason for new gun laws. I mean, it's almost as if there is a kill two birds with one stone here. A defense of Hunter Biden. It's not his fault. He was lured into purchasing this gun because of a gun special. And the second bird they can kill with this stone is cracking down on these evil gun shops that have promotions, luring unsuspecting, otherwise innocent crack addicted individuals into their stores in order to buy firearms. I mean, what a novel approach. So he was tricked, essentially. I mean, let's be honest. Poor Hunter Biden. Once again, a victim. Poor guy. It's my understanding this is one of the steps to recovery, as we are told how proud Joe Biden is because he is in recovery. One of the steps of recovery is blame other people for your past actions. It's my understanding that that's the case, and so we are watching this recovery process on full display in this trial. His attorney continued in his opening remarks that the firearm Biden purchased was a small gun. Oh, okay. So this is the other apparent defense. This is not one of those warlike guns made for war that we hear about. It was a small one. It's a small one. And it was never used in the 11 days Biden had it in his possession. Prosecutors, on the other hand, argue no one is above the law. Oh, isn't that clever? Isn't that cute? The prosecutors told the jury that during the trial they will present evidence showing Biden was a crack cocaine addict who lied on a federal gun form in order to purchase the firearm. No, he wasn't. He was a victim who was tricked in his crack cocaine-induced haze into buying this small little tiny gun that he only had for 11 days. So that means that he should be excused for lying on a federal form. See? That's the defense. Because no one's above the law. There have been a listing. Breitbart has 9 takeaways from the first day of Hunter Biden's gun trial. 1, the defense is going to try to convince the jury that Hunter did not knowingly commit wrongdoing, as prosecutors say, in order to frame Hunter as a victim of drug addiction. Now, this is last week or the week before, or what, for some time, I've suggested if I were the defense, this is what I would argue, as transparently pathetic as it is. What else are you going to do? I mean, there's no disputing it happened. The law was broken. So you have to find some reason to excuse it and to essentially convince the jury that in this case, Hunter Biden was above the law. And he was above the law because he's a victim of his own drug addiction. That the signature he gave, claiming that he was not on or addicted to any sort of illegal drug, is a sort of statement or signature that can only be applied by somebody who is of sound mind, and the fact that he was on drugs means, of course, that he was not of sound mind. So you can't hold him accountable for that. And what a can of worms this opens if this, in fact, does work. Do you know how many people? I mean, I don't know the number, but imagine there are numerous people who are in prison for doing the exact same thing. In fact, the defense here is that aspect of the federal form is essentially a get out of jail free card. That's what their argument is. Because anyone who violates it, according to Hunter Biden's defense, in their theory here, can't be held accountable for violating it because they were on drugs. And if you're on drugs, you are not of sound mind of the right mind to be able to make an accurate and honest statement about your state of mind. You don't have the state of mind to do it. This is an amazing defense. Now, of course, his dad, Joe Biden, has in the past been very adamant about the fact that we need to, as a country, be greater enforcers and punishers of people who do exactly what it is that Hunter Biden has done. Joe Biden has talked about this specifically in the past. People who lie on federal forms in order to obtain firearms. So the scenario is this from the current president of the United States. He has in the past campaigned on holding people who have done what Hunter Biden did accountable to a greater degree. Hunter Biden's defense is, not only should I not be held accountable for this, but if you buy into my defense, no one who sits in prison today should. And Joe Biden says that he's proud of his son, Hunter. So he's proud of his son for being the scourge on society that Joe Biden as president and as a U.S. senator in the past has argued people like Hunter Biden are. The defense strategy may be to obtain jury nullification, that is believed to be the case by many observers. Also, the Department of Justice is expected to frame their prosecution as no one is above the law, and it doesn't matter who you are or what your name is, and we all know that's a joke. Also, considered noteworthy, jury is evenly split between men and women, but all three alternates are women. Many jurors seated in the case say they have family members who experience drug abuse, and that could go either way, frankly. Some people who have had or currently have family members that are addicted to drugs, depending on what that looks like, could either elicit empathy or could have the opposite effect. You could have someone whose family's been destroyed. There's almost a deep-seating hatred for this family member that has torn the family apart because of their drug addiction, and the relationship is one in which that the family member who's the recipient of the behavior feels as if, not being an addict themselves, they see the family member who is an addict as just this horrible scourge on the family and tearing the family apart, and has an anger issue towards them and sees them as selfish, and how they're never held accountable for anyone. The mom and dad never hold them accountable, and so it could go the opposite way. It could be something that gives a juror the sense that here's finally my chance. I can finally have control over somebody with an addict by finding this person guilty. So you never know which way that's going to go. President Joe Biden reportedly intends to have a phone conversation with Hunter Biden every day during the trial. Biden family, which we've been told in the past that, I'm sorry, haven't we? This is part of the Joe Biden is the best dad in the world storyline in the past about how every single day they talk on the phone. This was also part of the explanation as to why it was that Joe Biden would oftentimes just randomly end up on the telephone with some of Hunter Biden's business partners that he never talked to because, that was just a coincidence because Joe Biden talks to him every single day on the phone. Biden family members and associates will likely be in court every day where the jury can see them. Haley Biden, the ex of Hunter Biden and the widow of his brother, will testify about doing crack with Hunter. And then, of course, perhaps most importantly, the FBI has confirmed and uses as evidence Hunter Biden's laptop. So apparently, if, of course, we are going to stick consistently with the media, with the Biden campaign, with the Biden administration, and with all Democrats, what that means is the Department of Justice is just a tool of Vladimir Putin because they are using Russian disinformation in order to try and imprison the son of the President of the United States. Because that's what we've been told about this laptop, right? It didn't exist. It was just Russian disinformation. Well, until it isn't. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. The jurors for the Hunter Biden trial, of course, were asked numerous questions to see whether or not there would be any sort of problems in terms of bias on the jury. And you're, of course, going to be asked about drug addiction, family drug addiction, and so forth. And the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line, wondering if any of the jurors were asked about having family members who have been having sex with widowed family members and so forth. Yeah, there are a lot of questions, actually, that could conflicts. That would be that could be a very long list. Have you ever had any family members eaten by other people? Have you ever had a father crawl into the shower with your sister or other family member on numerous occasions to the point that she wrote about it in her trauma diary? I mean, you could eliminate a lot of that. However, I suspect a lot of jurors, just out of embarrassment, probably wouldn't necessarily answer those questions honestly. But and some of it, be like, all right, you're gonna have to write this one down because this is very confusing. All right. Have you ever had a this that did a this, and then when this happened, this, and they're like, wait a minute, wouldn't that be my own cousin? Like, yeah, we're just wondering. That's all. Hunter Biden's wife, Melissa Cohen, flips out at a former Trump aide in the courthouse, screaming at him that you're a Nazi piece of blank. That coming up is the white trash family that occupies the White House, puts Jerry Springer-esque explosion of personality traits on display in the court. This could be a lot more fun. Oh, why can't there be cameras in this courtroom? Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. First alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Partly cloudy with a high near 81 today, 60 for a low tonight, sunny 83 tomorrow, Friday sunny with a high near 84. Wilder RV. If you love really high pressure sales and people following you around and feeling as if that person is there just to get as much out of you as possible, then Wilder RV is probably, you're going to feel neglected. You're not going to feel comfortable there. But if you want people that are going to be straight up respectful, they're not there to try to upsell you. They're not there in order to convince you that for low payments this. And then when you get there in the office and you're signing papers, they're talking about, oh, by the way, there's this little fee and that little fee. And before you know it, you're paying 50% more on monthly payments than you thought that you were going to. That is not what you get with Wilder RV. They don't follow you around. They don't say, well, when you find all of them are locked, whenever you find one that you like, come and get us and we'll let you into it. What they'll do when you arrive, they'll ask you, so what are you looking for? Do you know what you're looking for? Well, no, I've not done this before. Well, are you going to take your family? Well, we got a dog, we got a newborn, and this is new to us. All right, well, so over here on this end of the lot, probably are RVs that are going to be in line with what you're looking for. So go check them out. Go inside, get a feel for them. If you have any questions, we'll be back over here. Just let us know. That's what you get. And you can also check out their inventory online, wilderrv.com. You can find them, ksgf.com, Nick's endorsements. They're in Clinton, Missouri, 85 miles north on 13, and it is very, very, very worth the drive. Plus, I find every time I'm in Clinton, Missouri, and I stop at one of the restaurants there, everybody's super friendly. I don't know what it is. I've noticed that a lot of times I stop. I'm going to Kansas City, coming back, and I'll pull into. Oftentimes, it's a fast food restaurant, and I'm just amazed at how it makes just very friendly. Even young people, very friendly on top of it. This is very nice. Maybe it's the water, Truman Lake. I don't know. Nazi piece of blank. Hunter Biden's wife, Melissa Cohen, flips out on former Trump aide in courthouse blow-up. Well, of course. At one point, let's see, we got the jury seated Monday. Hunter held his wife's hand as he entered the courthouse. Now, this wife hasn't actually been married to any other Biden family members that we know of. So this is her first Biden marriage. This is the first Biden family member that she has had sex with, as best as we know. So she's sort of a unicorn of sorts, if you will. At one point, his wife, Melissa, flipped out on a former Trump aide who was at the courthouse observing the trial. She screamed at former Trump aide Garrett Ziegler in the hallway during a morning break at the courthouse. And she called him a Nazi piece of blank in some sort of hysterical outburst. Can you imagine what fights are like in that house? I mean, Hunter Biden, and she clearly a little bit unhinged, or at least easily pushed over the edge, just seeing this guy and losing all control of her faculties and screaming, "You Nazi piece of blank" at him. And I bet they have some real humdinger fights at that house. So the guy that she yelled at, Hunter has a lawsuit against. He owned Polo, Marco Polo, I think the website that published a lot of the information that was on the website. And so Hunter Biden is suing him, claiming that it was illegal for him to do that. And, of course, the laptop was something that he left behind. And anytime that you leave your laptop behind somewhere to be worked on, or anything for that matter, and you sign paperwork essentially saying, hey, if you don't pick this up within this many days, then you are surrendering it. Because otherwise, you have to put a deadline on these sorts of things, because then you have somebody come back 3 years later and they're like, oh, I'm here to get my laptop. I'm like, what? Are you kidding? We're not holding it on for that long. And then they pitch a fit and sue you. And so you sign paperwork saying, I understand that after this period of time, though I imagine the excuse, of course, would be that Hunter Biden was on crack cocaine, and so he should not be held responsible for that. Instead, the store owner should have known that he was on crack cocaine and not held him responsible to that signature. But nonetheless, that's the way that it all panned out. And so eventually that information got leaked out, and Hunter Biden is suing the individual who put it online. And this is the person that is a Nazi pizza blank, according to his current wife. Meanwhile, this story, Hunter Biden confronted by his sugar brother's daughter, who demands, stop taking advantage of my father, according to the report. As the Hollywood lawyer, now this is outside of the courtroom. as the Hollywood lawyer known as Hunter Biden's sugar brother stands by Joe Biden's son. Members of Kevin Morris's family want him to walk away, according to the New York Post. This is apparently one of those situations where, you got a family and they try to do an intervention with one of the members because the members is in a toxic relationship. Well, apparently that member of the family is Kevin Morris, and that relationship is with Hunter Biden. And Hunter Biden, this is according to the family, he mooches off the guy. He drains him dry financially. The New York Post reported yesterday that Morris was among those who did show up in Wilmington, Delaware on Monday at the start of Hunter Biden's trial. In his memoir, Beautiful Things, the president's son talked about doing drugs, which is, of course, this is why he's in trouble, because in the federal form he claimed he was not a drug addict. Morris has been bankrolling Biden since meeting him in 2019, according to the Post. The report says that the lawyer's 23-year-old daughter recently confronted Hunter Biden face-to-face for taking millions and millions of dollars from her dad. Dulcie Lou Morris told him to, quote, stop taking advantage of my father, citing what it said was a source close to the family it did not name. The source told the Post she and other family members objected to the extent of money spent on Hunter Biden's legal defense. Quote, his entire family has abandoned him because they were livid when they found out he was bankrolling everything, according to Politico. A person close to Morris, who was granted anonymity to discuss private conversations, said the 60-year-old started out with good intentions and has not been able to walk away. A source saying the reason Kevin was involved financially in the first place was that he could see that no one else was going to help Hunter. Now, 4.5 years later, there's still no help, and now Kevin is completely tapped out. So just when Hunter is facing 2 criminal trials starting in a few weeks, he has no resources. It's pretty dire. A letter from, Morris confirmed the account without elaboration. According to Politico, a letter from his attorneys to the House Oversight Committee listed more than $6.5 million in what was termed loans to Hunter Biden. The money was given to Biden from 2021 through 23 with no repayment due until October 1st. And, it comes as no shock that apparently Hunter Biden is no good for this. Which I suppose gives some insight into the Biden family mindset and why it is that Joe Biden feels that millions of Americans, including attorneys and 6-7-figure earners, should not have to pay back money that they borrowed. This apparently is a family trait amongst the Bidens, that they just feel absolutely no responsibility whatsoever when they agree to borrow money and to pay it back, that they just think, like, why should I have to do that? And according to his sugar brother's family, that is one life that he's completely financially destroyed to the tune of $6.5 million, which it makes you wonder, what is going on there? What would cause somebody to go to $6.5 million? If you got billions, $6.5 million, you're like, okay. But if you have $6.5 million and you give $6.5 million to somebody that you know isn't good for it, it's not as if Hunter Biden has a proven track record of being reliable, being honest, being responsible. This guy apparently knows Hunter Biden very, very well. And so you wonder what is going on there. Is it a relationship thing? Does Hunter have something on him that he could extort that sort of money? But whatever it is, it's not normal. But again, it's the Bidens. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Well, another round of storms rolled through the listening area last night, and if you woke up with yellowing on your ceiling or maybe full-blown leaks or maybe a monsoon happening right there in your living room, now is the time to call Josh with the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, you can get the real deal with the Pyramid team. They are homeowners too, so they understand the frustration of when something goes wrong, especially a big ticket item like your roof. So they are going to do the best job that they possibly can to help you protect your roof and that pocketbook too. They're not going to upsell you. Instead, they are going to find the best solution for your roof. And sometimes that's not a whole new roof, but maybe just a simple roof repair. Whatever your roofing situation is, the Pyramid Roofing Company will get you all taken care of. So whether if it is time for that whole new roof, maybe just a simple roof repair, or if you want to go ahead and schedule that free roof inspection, go ahead and give the Pyramid Roofing Company a call today. You can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I had another Hunter Biden story not related to the current case. Hunter Biden, the current case in court that he's dealing with in Delaware. Hunter Biden told Congress he didn't work on visas for Burisma boss, but emails show that he actually did. This is more of that perjury stuff. This is more of, yes, there are some people that are above the law. Hunter Biden testified before Congress earlier this year that during his impeachment deposition, or this year during the impeachment deposition, that he would never have assisted his Ukrainian business partners in resolving their travel visa issues. But newly evidence obtained by Congress shows that, of course, that was not true. In one email, in fact, Hunter Biden asserts he is working with someone to get visa issues resolved for Mykola Zolchevsky, the owner of the Burisma Holding energy firm that hired the future first son on the board. His email said, "My contact has said that he will take care of it, but I have not gotten confirmation yet that he has done so with 100% certainty," he wrote Burisma executive Vadim Pusharsky in a February 2015 email that was seized by the FBI during a criminal investigation a decade ago, but just recently obtained by Just the News. In another document the FBI has possessed since 2016. It's amazing all these documents that the FBI has sat on. Just amazing. You know, the same FBI that will fake photos during a Trump raid with classified markings on it, sit on actual evidence for almost a decade if it looks like it might be harmful to the Bidens. But no one's above the law. No one. In another document the FBI has possessed since 2016, the U.S. law firm that employed Hunter Biden declared in a 58-page strategy memo for Burisma that it was working on the visa issue after Hunter Biden himself arranged for the firm to get a retainer. The emergence of yet more new email evidence turned over to Congress by former Hunter Biden business partner Devin Archer comes as the chairman of the three House committees leading the impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden are preparing to refer the first son and possibly his uncle James Biden for federal prosecution for false statements to Congress. Lying to Congress is a federal crime, punishable by a sentence up to 5 years. But again, the very people who tell us no one is above the law will explain to us why it is that Hunter Biden and James Biden are above the law. House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Jason Smith told Just the News on Monday, it's the next thing we should be, that should be moving forward. One of the lies that we pointed out of the three, in fact, deals with CEO of Burisma. Hunter Biden told Congress that he never worked with any visas, trying to help anyone with any visas, with his father, in fact, or the administration. And in fact, we have documentation showing that Hunter Biden can take care of the CEO Burisma visa. Just send him the documentation. Of course, Abby Lowell, the attorney for Hunter Biden, said that this is grasping at straws and twisting Hunter's words and so forth and so forth. And this is what we have with the complete, it's not only a level of dishonesty, but it is a lack of concern about, they know that people know that they're liars. They don't care. You know, you've got people, and some people, they sort of ride a line, and then, you know, I think most of us, at some point in our lives said something that wasn't true. And then, you know that feeling when you get caught, right? You physically, and maybe it's been so far back you were a kid when it happened, but that moment you get caught and they talk about the feeling of the walls closing in. You understand what that feeling means. I mean, because that's how it feels. But then there are people that don't feel that. They're sociopaths. There's something wrong with them. Whether it's nature or nurture, there is a human defect in those people. And when you watch so many of these frankly elected Democrats, but you realize that those people, when they get caught in a lot, it makes no difference to them whatsoever. There's no shame, there's no embarrassment, nothing. They're like sociopaths. And so you have this scenario where and Republicans, and they know what they're asking because they know that in all likelihood, or perhaps they even already had the evidence, that Hunter Biden did specifically work on getting visas. And so they're very, very specific in asking. So you never did, in any way, shape, or form, for anyone at all whatsoever, trying to cover every single base. Like, nope, never did, never would, never did, never would. And then, of course, the emails reveal that that's exactly what he was doing. His own emails coordinating it to occur. But what will Democrats say? Well, that's not proof. Well, you're twisting his words because they have no shame. There's a defect. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talking text line. They all, Dems and Republicans, have had to know for years how dirty. Talking about presumably the Bidens. Why do none in Washington admit it and say Joe has dementia? Before the end of the show today, in fact, I will have a story about that. The Wall Street Journal has a piece in which congressional leaders they're beginning to more openly talk about how these meetings that they have with him, it's very clear he's not there. I mean, it's just, I think there's a human nature component to Republicans in the past not wanting to call him out. And I think some of it's because they didn't want to be almost, and I know this logically may not make sense, but I from a humanitarian standpoint, I can understand it. They didn't want to, let's say you're in a room, okay? Everyone's in a room. And there is that one other person in the room, and they are, maybe they're getting older, and you notice, and you notice everyone notices, right? You're like, oh, I think there's something wrong with him. That doesn't make sense. Now, in all likelihood, you're not gonna say something right there in front of everyone. Everyone like, Hey, does anybody else notice that? Yeah, I'm calling you out over here. I think you're slipping. And they may talk about it amongst themselves quietly later. And I think that's what happens in Washington, D.C., that you have all of these folks that they have known this. It has been clear. But it gets talked about amongst themselves, which is different than broadcasting it to the world. And I think there's almost this kind of a guilt factor or feeling like, well, do I really want to embarrass him that way? And I know what is at stake. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just trying to get a grasp on why is it that people, including political opposition, that clearly have known what's going on with this guy for a while, not been more stark in talking about it. And at the same time, maybe because it hasn't had to be. I mean, it's like everyone knows it. We all see it. So it's like, do congressional leaders really need to come out? Do Republicans or anyone really need to come out and be like, oh, yeah, I've met with him behind closed doors and he's senile, when everyone sees it? It's not as if it's a secret. And so I think there's a number of factors why this hasn't been something that Republican leadership has been more just focused on, I guess, in terms of messaging and talking about. And listen, this is new territory for us. We have never had the American people willingly set aside the potential shenanigans in the election, but vote for a guy that clearly was senile then. And you look at even today, he did look, compared to how he is today, he looked sharp as a tack back then, and they were hiding in the basement back then because of his mental decline. And there are still, look how many people still say they're going to vote for him. So, 10 NFL teams so far are refusing this year to be part of the LGBTQ Pride Month messaging, crammed down your throat, preachy, nonstop, just blech. Those teams thus far, as of the writing of this story, Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, Tennessee Titans, Denver Broncos, it's interesting. Dallas Cowboys, Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, and the Kansas City Chiefs. While other 22, in fact, virtue signaling about Pride Month, Washington Commanders saying Pride Month is actually, it's about love. No, it's not. It's about money and marketing. It is not about love. At least when it comes to corporations, when it comes to celebrities, when it comes to a lot of these, it is about marketing, it is about money, it is not about love. News in 60 seconds, I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs. Pre-purchase inspection is very, very important. It is a service that they offer to get in there so you know exactly what it is that you are purchasing. I use it. One of the worst financial decisions I ever made was purchasing a pre-owned vehicle that I really liked, and I just had yet to really be connected with A1 in the way I am now, and just wasn't aware of this service, and it was horrible. This most recent time in which I was purchasing a vehicle, the first one I found one online, local, and I didn't even look at it. I just said, "Hey, listen, I'm interested in this, but I want to have A1 Custom Car Care take a look at it." And the person who was selling it, like, oh, it was a dealership, said, "Oh no, I'm very familiar. I'll drive it over there for you if you want." Drove it over, and then got a report from A1 Custom Car Care, and they're like, "All right, here are the things that probably immediately you'll need to take care of. Here are things you want to keep an eye on. Here are things that, just sort of the sort of thing that's not necessary to fix, but it's not necessarily like new." And I just made the decision. I was like, I don't want to spend that much on something that needs that sort of work. It just, that's so I knew. Otherwise, I would not have known. So I never even saw in person the vehicle, never drove it. And it saved me from purchasing something that was going to cost me more than I otherwise would have anticipated, and it can save you as well. A1 Custom Car Care, that's the pre-purchase inspection. And this is not, by the way, the inspection that the government mandates. It's like $12 or whatever it is so that you can get it licensed. This is get in there, get in deep, take things apart, see what's going on. A1 Custom Car Care. Joe Biden landing in France, he immediately took a lid, which means that he is not going to be doing anything. That a lid, you may hear this term oftentimes used, and what that means is that's telling the media there is not going to be anything to cover. The president is not going to be doing anything for the rest of the day. And the reason that is done is because otherwise the media will be on standby. You have people that cover the White House, cover the Biden campaign, and so their job is to just always be there, sort of hovering, if you will, whenever the president does something. That way they can cover it. And so a lid is announced so that they know you can go. The president's taking a nap. He's going to bed. He's not going to do anything else for the rest of the day. And this president has become known for taking lids sometimes at 9:30 in the morning. He'll come out and then wave at the cameras and smell a little girl, and then they call a lid because that's a very stressful day for him. And apparently sleeping on Air Force One on the flight all the way over to France is very exhausting, and so they have already called a lid for the day. One of the text messages on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line asking if, or wondering whether Joe is going to tell the masses how his son died on the beaches of Normandy, or perhaps his heroic deeds on that day when he single-handedly defeated Hitler. And time will tell. But there is a very good chance that, yes, that will occur. Look at the weather here in just a couple of moments. We do have happy hour coming up at Retro Metro on Friday from 4 to 6. Love for you to come out, socialize with us. A lot of times people will show up and it's the first time and they're like, now what do we do? You do the same thing that you do whenever a friend sends you a text and says, hey, after work, we're going to go over to Retro Metro. You want to come join us? And you're like, yeah. And you show up and, you don't say, well, what are we going to do? You're just hanging out, and that's what this is. I know it sort of seems, I understand why people ask that question, because usually when radio stations do something, there's like, all right, you're going to get here, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And we do those sorts of things, but we also just like to hang out. And one of the benefits of having a show like this is you can be like, hey, guys, want to get together and hang out? And it's just as simple as that. So that will be Retro Metro 4 to 6 this Friday. While you are at KSGF.com, you can register for Lunch Bunch at Retro Metro. You can make yourself a reminder that coming up Friday at 10 a.m., Local for Less Ozarks, $50 tickets to Friday's PBR Thunder Days for only $25. So a half-price deal on that. And you can also if you have the app, text directly the studio. If you text the word Thunder, that is going to get you registered to win a pair of tickets to see Imagine Dragons at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena September 8th. Text the word Thunder to 417-447-5743. And we have all sorts of other things, of course. You can register to win a pizza party at Godfather's at ksgf.com. A lot there. There's a lot there. And the Great Escape information. Get yourself registered. Get yourself signed up. All the details are there. I think off the top of my head, that's some of the more immediate things. Latest news update. The first alert forecast sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals from Color 10. Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, partly cloudy, 81 for the high today, clear 60 tonight, 83 tomorrow, sunshine Friday with a high near 84. We are streaming live at ksgf.com, also on YouTube. So you can watch the show unfold as you listen to it. That's sponsored by Springfield Wraps, who also designed the KSGF studio. Biden's immigration order yesterday is going to normalize 2 million illegal entries yearly. The upside of this insanely absurd executive order, executive action, is that everyone knows it's crap. No one is buying into this. And in usual fashion, in the words of former President Barack Obama, never underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. Joe is effing things up here. Not with the border, that's already done. But this is an attempt by Biden and the Democrats to have conflicting goals that that you're trying to navigate through. It is not unlike what we have seen when it comes to Israel. On one hand, saying, "Oh no, we're the most pro-Israeli president you've ever seen," and then over here telling these people, "Well, no, I hear what you're saying about those Jews and everything," and desperately trying not to offend the anti-Semitic wing of the Democrat Party. The problem is that there are times when you can have people that are not in agreement on something, and you can say, all right, well, here, let's compromise. And the compromise doesn't require the complete destruction of the other side, okay? But then there are other times that that's not the case. And when that's the case, you either have to pick one side or another. If they're in fundamental conflict with one another, you cannot straddle that fence. Because in doing so, you are not only not giving support to both sides, but you are ticking both sides off, because by not, it just doesn't work. It's a total conflict. That is why it is that he's losing support amongst the Jewish community, and that is why he is losing support amongst the Muslim community as well. And when it comes to the border, it's the same thing. People who are wanting real meaningful border enforcement recognize that this is pathetically a joke. In fact, this is not only not border security, but this is more of the same. Laughably, they're like, all right, no, we're going to secure the border. Now, we're going to let 2,500 illegals a day come in. But after that, then we'll start enforcing the border. Like, what? This is like saying you own a liquor store and you get busted because you are allowing kids with fake IDs that are underage to come in and buy smokes and to buy White Claws. And you get busted for it. And so you're like, okay, all right, I'm going to put a stop to this. I'm going to make sure that I have a very secure security system in place in order to make sure that I take care of this problem with underage kids buying White Claws and smokes. And part of that plan is to say that the first 25 who come in, I'm going to go ahead and let them buy White Claw and smokes. In fact, I'll just give it to them. But after that, then we're really going to kick in enforcement. Now, would that satisfy the stated goal? No, of course not. You'd say, no, it does not work that way. Like in the city of Springfield. The city of Springfield says if you can no longer have these video gaming machines. You can't have those any longer. You just can't. Now, of course, we've seen some defiance in that. But if a gas station, convenience store, whatever, said, okay, we're going to be in full compliance, and yes, we're going to do this. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to allow the first 120 people every day who come through here to use the machines. But after that, we'll make sure that they're not allowed to, and that's full enforcement. No, it's not. So saying that we are going to secure the border by openly telling the first 2,500 illegals every single day, well, now except for you, that's not how it works. Also, they're completely exempting the revenue source of human smugglers, and that's children. So, in other words, they've exempted human smugglers. They have sent the message in this that if you are a human smuggler that is selling children, whether it's sex slavery or whatever it is, you're exempt. Well, isn't that nice? So people who want actual border enforcement are not happy by this. Then on the other side, you have the Sob Squad members that are decrying this as xenophobic and racist and all of the things, of course, that at least they're consistent, because when Trump actually was enforcing the border, they called him xenophobic, they called him racist, they called him all these horrible things. And while Biden is pretending that he's trying to enforce the border, some of those Democrats are at least being consistent in this, and they are calling him the same names, although he's not actually in a meaningful way enforcing the border. I want to play audio coming up. Mayorkas, the fact that this guy, how do you get fired in this administration? I mean, how? I guess if you are a cross-dresser that gets caught stealing people's luggage, but that apparently is it. Mayorkas, who was impeached, and then the Senate under Democrat leadership just completely rejected their constitutional duty to hold a trial. They're like, nah, I don't think so. No, we're not going to do that. Okay. He's out there. He's on Neil Cavuto. And Neil Cavuto asks him the obvious, like, there's kind of this exemption for, child sex traffickers and everything. Oh, but don't worry. Mayorkas is telling us, no, that won't happen. Because, they've got it all taken care of. Like they've had it taken care of for the past several years, of course. That audio next. I'm Nick Reed. Look. Sarah Myers.
That's me. Well, there's a good chance that we may see another ammo shortage, especially as we move closer to 2025. And if you are the type of person that just likes to be prepared, right now is a great time to go ahead and get ahead of that curve and do an ammo restock. And that's why I want to recommend Quick Draw Gun in Monette. If you haven't been down there to the shop, you are missing out. Doesn't matter if you come from a line of avid firearm collectors or you are wanting to purchase your first ever firearm, they do a great job getting on your level of expertise so they can best help you with all of your firearm needs. And they are always getting new inventory into the shop as well. They just received a shipment of Monolis, I think some Henrys, and I believe they also got a new shipment from Live Free Armory, which Quick Draw Gun, by the way, is the only shop in Southwest Missouri that is a Live Free Armory dealer. Now, in the meantime, if you have any questions or you're looking for something specific, go ahead and give Brad and his team a call today. You can find all of the contact information for Quick Draw Gun under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
The Biden campaign desperately trying to stop hemorrhaging all over the place when it comes to policy failures, the border, of course, being one of them. Now, you and I, of course, understand that it actually wasn't a failure. The problem has been the failure aren't the results. The failure of the administration is to convince people that the border is secure. So they've had this real problem of, on one hand, opening the border and welcoming drug dealers, gun traffickers, human sex traffickers, and so forth, but then convincing people, no, the border is secure. They tried that for a few years. It just didn't work. So now they're really grappling with that. Part of the executive, there's a couple of pretty significant aspects of this approach being taken by Biden. One, the secure nature of it involves the allowance of 2,500 illegals in every single day. That's what they call secure. Which, incidentally, does anyone believe that they actually would stop it past that point? Does anybody believe that? The problem aren't the rules here. It's the fact that they're not enforced. So, in reality, Biden could come up with all the rules that he wants to. It doesn't mean jack. It also gives an exemption to human traffickers if the humans are children. Here you have Mayorkas on with Neil Cavuto, in which Neil Cavuto points out that exemption for the child human traffickers.
So the one thing I didn't understand, Secretary, there are a number of exemptions for this, including, unaccompanied children. And isn't that a green light for drug cartels to take advantage of that? And, the whole purpose of this, it sort of blows up in your face.
Oh, absolutely not.
But who's going to watch those unaccompanied children? If they are allowed in, you don't ship them back, you don't do anything like that. So where do they go?
Neil, we deal with unaccompanied children in a humanitarian way, adhering to our values. We deter irregular migration. We build lawful pathways.
But this encourages drug cartels to take advantage of those kids, does it not, sir?
Neil, we're taking it to the drug cartels with unprecedented strength through our transnational criminal investigative units.
No, this is actually a green light for those
customs
cartels.
enforcement.
Isn't that the fear, that this was actually green lighting and say, oh, God, but we can use these kids as pawns to get what we want?
Neil, let's be clear. The cartels, the smuggling organizations are unscrupulous. They exploit individuals of all different types of vulnerabilities. We are taking it to the cartels. We accepted unaccompanied children from this asylum bar because of the compelling humanitarian picture they present.
All right, let me get a better...
We're going to adhere to our values.
Okay.
We're going to adhere to our values while we take tough enforcement measures, which is what we have done.
Just tell a lie often enough. It's amusing almost to watch the tactic that is used by this administration when it comes to telling just brazen lies. And that is, you just wear down the person who's asking the question. Now, of course, if it is a mainstream network, they have a sympathetic interviewer, so they may ask, and they may say, well, the critics say this and so forth. They'll easily move on. Neil Cavuto, he's on Fox, and he's pretty straight shooter. He's not a guy that's going to be some sort of bulldog about it, but he's going to say, well, come on, this is BS here, and that's what he did there. And so the tactic is you just wear them down. If they keep pointing out the truth, you just wear them down by saying the same thing over and over and over again. Keep telling the lie over and over and over again, and eventually they'll just quit. They'll give up out of exhaustion. And that's the tactic that's used by this administration. You heard it there by Mayorkas. There's an exemption here for anyone that's smuggling kids across, the kids that they're exempt from this rule. And so how do the kids get across? Well, they get across by human smugglers. They're not coming across by themselves. You don't have 4 and 5 and 6-year-olds and toddlers that are making their way up through South America on their own, as if we're talking about some sort of Latin American version of Goonies here. These are children that are smuggled in, and so if you give them an exemption, how the heck do you think that they get here into the United States illegally? It's human smugglers. Oh, but Mayorkas, no, because we're really taking it to those smugglers, and we're upholding values, and human smugglers well, actually, that's not true at all. No, we're really taking it to the human. All right, fine, whatever, next question. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. First Alert Forecast. Sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Partly cloudy, a high near 81 today, clear, low of 60 tonight. Tomorrow, sunshine 83. Friday, sunny with a high near 84. The reason that, well, I mean, we know why the Biden administration / campaign is pretending as if it's trying to secure the border, and that is because of the massive destruction it has done to the reelection chances, not just of Biden, but to Democrats. There was a story earlier in the week, or perhaps last week even, about how there are numerous Democrats who are running for reelection that are staying as far away from Biden as possible. It's really interesting because the reality of what the Trump campaign versus the Biden campaign looks like in regards to the voters is the opposite of what we were all told a year and a half ago it was supposed to be. Trump was supposed to be the one on the run. Trump was supposed to be the one that if he got the nomination, the Republicans were going to be in a world of hurt. Trump was the one that we were set to believe, this was the narrative of it all, that Republicans who are running for re-election were going to be in real trouble if Trump was on the ticket, that he was going to cause all sorts of damage. And meanwhile, Biden, of course, was just going to soar to victory, and this would be some amazing rally around him, and that Democrats would ride his coattails. And it's the opposite. You have Trump, of course, he's facing show trials. And not only are Republicans that are up for re-election not avoiding him, but they're showing up at his trial, making sure that they're seen on camera supporting him. And that's because in swing states, the best Joe Biden can possibly do is tie or maybe 1 point within the margin of error beat Trump. But overwhelmingly, you have all these swing states that Trump is leading in. You don't hear about any of the purple states that are, or red states that might go blue, but there is talk about blue states that potentially could go red. And I'm not even talking about the New Jerseys or New Yorks. I'm talking about states like Virginia, states that for decades have not gone to a Republican but are within the margin of error for Trump. It really goes to show how either detached from reality the media is, or how purposeful they are in spreading disinformation, that they can craft this sense, sort of this feeling of the state of affairs, the mood of the American people. And when it becomes something that bubbles to the surface and something that we can all observe and becomes undeniable, it is the exact opposite of what they told us it was. And, of course, the media, along with the Democrats, spent the entirety of the Biden administration until recently telling us about how secure the border was. And, in fact, going into his first term, Joe Biden beat, albeit by just a percentage point, Donald Trump when it came to the border. And this is CNN's discussion yesterday about the poll numbers, Biden versus Trump when it comes to the border.
What a difference from where we were 4 years ago at this point. So immigration is the nation's top problem. Back in May of 2020, it was just 1% of voters who said that. It ranked 15th on the list of most important problems in the United States. Look at where we are today, May of 2024, the last poll conducted by Gallup. It's up to 18%. So that's 18 times as high. And more than that, it ranks as the second most important problem. So we've gone from 15th to second. So to me, it's not a huge surprise that President Biden is doing what he's doing, because the fact is immigration is at the top of the mind for the American voter.
And sometimes my next question depends on how the question is asked, but who do people trust? Who do voters trust more on this issue?
Yeah, no matter how you phrase it, you will see that more voters today trust former President Trump over President Biden, but the margins can change depending on how it is. So this is a better job on border security and immigration, which tends to be one of former President Trump's best questions. But I think the key thing here, Kate, to look at is the timeline and look at the trend line here. Because back in June of 2020, Biden was actually trusted more on the question of border security and immigration by a single point. Look at where we are in May of 2024. My goodness gracious. Look at this huge jump that Donald Trump has gotten. He is now ahead on this issue by 27 percentage points. So it's not just that immigration is more at the top of voters' minds than it was 4 years ago. It's that who they trust on the issue has changed tremendously. I look at a lot of questions. I dig into the crosstabs a lot. The fact that you see a 30-point shift, I'm used to seeing 10, 15, maybe 20-point shifts, but basically a 30-point shift, 28 points if you want to be exact, that is very, very different from a lot of other polling questions.
And this issue, probably more than any other, we know this is where Donald Trump's rhetoric is most extreme and most harsh, and that goes for many Republicans with regard to border security and immigration. How do immigrant communities react to this? Is there any sign that there's backlash to this?
Yeah, it's very interesting to me because I think a lot of Democrats are saying, oh, look at, Donald Trump, look at what we call anti-immigration rhetoric. There's going to be some backlash. I'm not quite sure that's exactly right. And I've been keeping a track on this. So this is who U.S. voters born outside of the country. So, people who might be born in France, people who might be born in Mexico, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Who do they prefer for president? Well, this is quite something. It's a number that always seems to surprise me no matter how often I look at it. In fact, they slightly more of them support Donald Trump at 47% than Joe Biden at 44%. Again, this is a change from where we were in 2020 because those voters who were born outside the United States prefer Joe Biden. But in this case, no sign of a backlash, Kate, at this point.
On this issue, yeah. It's good to see you, Harry. Thanks for putting this together.
Thank you.
John?
Oh, how sad. I think that is my favorite part. Immigrants, people born outside the United States, when it comes to border security, support Donald Trump over Joe Biden. You can bathe in the deliciousness of past comments and criticisms, not just Democrats and media, but I just go back to 2016 in the primaries and Donald Trump, the strongest Republican when it came to talking about border security and the establishment talking about how, my God, he was going to destroy any opportunity to get Hispanic votes. Jeb Bush was the great savior. Jeb Bush was the type of Republican that we were told that was necessary in order to win over Hispanic voters. That Republicans had to accept the reality that Hispanic Americans want illegals to come into this country. And so whomever the Republican is, if they want to win those votes, they have to be understanding and sympathetic to that. They have to be open to and supportive of amnesty. They have to be open to being less adamant about securing the border. And they certainly can't use rhetoric like Donald Trump does when it comes to noting that many of the people who come into this country illegally are not good people. Some of them are human traffickers. Some of them are drug smugglers. Some of them are murderers. You certainly can't say that sort of thing. And Donald Trump would be the destruction of any sort of support that the Republican Party had managed to slowly but surely. George Bush was governor of Texas, and he could, talk about, say a little bit of Spanish. Jeb Bush could fluently speak Spanish. His wife was Latin American, and I mean, just come on, this is the direction. And look at what we have today. Massive Hispanic support. Unprecedented for a Republican. And specifically when it comes to the issue of border security. In the general election polling, more people born outside of the United States support Donald Trump than Joe Biden when it comes to this issue. You think about the avalanche of partisan attacks that Trump, since he began running for president prior to 2016, that he received, the unison of voices, the unified nature of everyone, Republican, Democrat, how wrong he was, yet he was the one who has been right all along. Oh, but he's Hitler. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. There have been a couple of stories, different stories, that I think are a fantastic demonstration of always wait until all the information comes out. And one of them was a story that you may have seen over the past week, and it was a guy who was doing, which this is still crazy to me that in this day and age, well, I don't know. He was in court via Zoom. And he was driving apparently to a doctor's appointment, and so his attorney is on the Zoom call. He's on the Zoom call video, as is the judge, so the judge can see that he's driving, and the judge you can tell he's just like aghast at the fact that this guy's driving, and he's like, is this not about restricted driving, the suspended license? And the attorney's like, yeah, it is. And he's like, this guy's driving, and he's turned himself, you're ordered to turn yourself in. You are driving. Here you are. And of course this goes viral because everyone's thinking, what sort of idiot is this guy? Here he is via Zoom in a court appearance because of having his license suspended, and he's zooming in from his car while driving. Well, and the guy, whenever the judge is telling him this, he doesn't go berserk. You could just see this look on his face, like what? I cannot believe this. It was, I don't know. It was a reaction that could potentially have suggested that, I don't know, this just doesn't seem right. Well, it turns out that it wasn't, and that, I know this is a huge shock, the government screwed up, and the suspension on his license had been lifted. He did have his license. He was perfectly legal to drive, but government's government, and so they just somehow messed up and did not get that information passed over to the court so that the judge knew that that was the case. So this guy, I think for 2 days, sat in jail, even though he was perfectly legally driving. And listen, things happen, mistakes happen. Like I said, it's government. I think this is what we've come to expect. But I think a story like that is a good lesson of, sometimes things aren't the way that they seem, especially when the media jumps on them as a story without getting all of the facts. Now, this second one is in the entertainment world, and this one I think is more of a shame on you, and it has to do with Adele, who is beloved. She's a great singer, very talented, and she has a personality, a way about her that makes her very likable. There are some artists that they can be abrasive, offensive. They say things, and they just have this way about them. But Adele is one of those that I think universally has a way about her that make people just like her, think, oh, that's the sort of person that I could spend time with and hang out with because she's nice. Well, she was performing in Las Vegas. This was just a few days ago. And somebody in the audience, as the original story went, yelled, kicking off Pride Month, "Pride sucks." To which Adele stopped what she was doing, singled out this individual, and began to berate him in front of the however many people were in the audience. Saying to him, "Did you come to my blanking show and just say that pride sucks? Are you blanking stupid? Don't be so blanking ridiculous," she continued. "If you have nothing nice to say, shut up, all right?" And the crowd erupted in applause. And so, of course, the story went viral because what a hero Adele is for absolutely eviscerating and humiliating this person that would dare say pride sucks during one of her performances. Well, it turns out that he did not say that. That he said that right after Adele was apparently talking about working, and this is, people that were there, and video verifies all of this, and he said work sucks. But Adele misheard him, which that happens. People mishear people all the time. But apparently, instead of stopping, and if she decides, okay, I'm going to destroy this individual right here because he yelled, "Pride sucks," this is what she's thinking, genuinely, I'm sure. And instead of asking, which she did you say this, and then actually waiting for a response, she just made the assumption. She didn't want to actually hear a response from this individual, and then took the opportunity to use her power and her fame in order to absolutely destroy this person, not just in an arena or whatever the venue was, but all over the world. Now, fortunately for this person, it's not as if everyone knew who he was and she doxed him or anything. But, this is the culture, particularly with all this pride crap and any sort of left-wing effort that is out there, any sort of left-wing propaganda, whatever it may be, and this is what it does to people. They make people these militant individuals that if they just hear something that they think, I think this is a perfect illustration of it. Here you have Adele, and she hears what she thinks is someone saying pride sucks, and instead of being like, "What did you say?" or ignoring it, she decides to go from 0 to 60 without even bothering to stop and ask this person, what he said in a way in which she actually would stop and listen to the answer, and just destroy him, which ultimately makes a fool of her. Now, I haven't seen any subsequent stories as to whether she apologized, but this ought to be a lesson. And this is one of those other stories where just because something comes out in the news doesn't mean that it's true. And the media is very quick to publish stories that fit a narrative, that celebrate somebody on the left, that really sticks it to some MAGA person or somebody on the right, or if it fulfills a stereotype of, America's racist, or we live in the most hostile country ever for the LGBT community, then they don't bother to try to get any facts. They don't bother to do any sort of investigation. All they do is they absolutely run with the story as if it's God's honest truth. And then when it comes to the actual truth, it's sort of an after effect, like, oh, by the way, we found out all of that stuff that, we made all of the, attention over and the hoopla about and so forth. It actually didn't happen, but hey, we got another outrageous story for you today. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. There is going to be much attention, rightfully so, paid to D-Day anniversary tomorrow. Today, however, we should not overlook. It is 20 years ago today, June 4th, 2004. The Killdozer terrorist attack on the tiny Colorado town of Granby. You know the Killdozer story, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If you have not ever seen a documentary on this,
It's called Tread. It's on Netflix.
All right,
Or it was
yeah.
on Netflix.
This is so what? Yeah, you got 53-year-old small business owner, Air Force vet, South Dakota native, moved to Grand Lake, Colorado in '89 after his USAF stint. Seemed to be generally well liked, but then he spent. He just had issues with local government essentially, and this is one of those situations where I think normal people who follow the story, and you can watch that Netflix Tread documentary, may not necessarily agree with his tactics, but kind of quietly rooting for the guy. Like, yes, I understand. Particularly if you've been a small business owner. He would spend 18 months holed up in an old muffler shop, modifying a bulldozer into an impenetrable battering ram, and he went on a rampage through the city, through the town, the small town. He had an AC unit and fans, steel-plated gun ports, ballistic plastic, enough food and water for a week. You had the city taking up arms, civilians and police firing. This was actually this. I mean, it was for this small town. It was a historically massive deal, and it's one of those things that, I mean, a lot of people know about, but I bet a majority of people don't know about it, or they may go if they see some sort of reference to it, like, I think I remember seeing something about that, but I would suspect the majority of Americans don't know the actual full story about what motivated this to occur, what led him to, quote, break, to carry out this attack and essentially have this goal of just destroying the entire town. But that was 20 years ago today, June 4th, 2004. Again, Treads, Sarah says, is the name of the documentary on Netflix. I can't believe, maybe they have made some sort of actual movie dramatizing it. If they have, I'm not sure. But it's one of those that a lot of, I think, average people watch, and they just quietly smile inside when they watch an average American fight back. Friday morning, we will be broadcasting live from Scramblers. Our Friday Road Show sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting, powered by 3M Window Film. Then in the afternoon, 4 to 6, our Retro Metro Happy Hour. It'll be our first happy hour after we opened up the next Great Escape for you to get your slot reserved. We will be in the Rio Palace, Costa Mujeres in Mexico. And this will be the second one of this year. It will be the first after the election, after this election anyhow. We had a Great Escape immediately following an election in 2016. And as you may recall, that was a Trump victory. This past 4 years, we did not have one right after the election, and it did not turn out to be a Trump victory ultimately. So this year, once again, we are having a Great Escape immediately after the election. So perhaps we'll find that there is some pattern here, some potential cosmic connection between Trump victory and a celebratory trip with friends and like-minded individuals that don't get triggered at the slightest offensive comment made, and we take a direct chartered flight down to the beautiful Rio Palace, Costa Mujeres, Mexico, for a week of drink and food, all inclusive, under $2,000. It's just over $1,800 for a garden view junior suite that has a mini bar. It's got liquor cabinet. You can get a pool room if you want. Of course, there are numerous swimming pools with swim-up bars, beautiful beach, all sorts of entertainment, and it's all inclusive, which means that price covers your airfare. It covers our transportation, which will all be together from the airport to the resort itself. It covers your drinks. It covers your food. Clean out that mini bar if you want. It's all covered. They'll refill it for you. Everything is taken care of under that cost. It's an incredible time. And if you haven't been on one and you keep saying, one of these times we're going to do it, this has got to be the time. You can get on the list. Cam, who is arranging everything, who arranged everything the last trip, and she was the originator of our Great Escape arrangement trips. She is with a group currently. She'll be back in the office, I believe, on Monday. But I know she already has some voicemails and emails of people who are in queue to get their slot reserved. So if you're planning on waiting until she gets back, it may be too late. If I were to absolute put money on it, I'd say probably will be okay, but why chance it? Get your name. You can email her, and you can call her. That contact information is at ksgf.com, and the big ad tile, if you will, for the station that's front and center of the website. It rotates every so many seconds, or you can click on the arrow on the right-hand side, and it'll manually rotate, and when you get to the Great Escape tile, just click on it, and all that information is available there. Joe Biden did an interview with Time Magazine in which, among other things, he essentially threatens to fight the reporter. He makes a couple of other comments that indicate his senility, claiming that there isn't a single person who can do the job of president better than him. He can do it better than anyone. And I think he's demonstrated that. I mean, in all fairness. He's also recently claimed, and this is something we've heard before, that world leaders are pulling him aside privately. And he remembers this because he's very sharp. And he has a very clear memory. These people have been pulling him aside and saying, you cannot let Trump win. Oh, you cannot let Trump win. So we've got that to talk about, plus more. We have some audio still to come this morning. A lot of information. If you happen to miss any of it so far, the first 2 hours, of course, the on-demand section at ksgf.com and in the KSGF app. And you've got a couple of other places, Spotify and so forth. Of course, many of you already know that, but you can seek it out and listen to it in that form as well. Weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update. First alert forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals from Color 10 Fox 49. Meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Partly cloudy, a high near 81 today. Clear, 64 low tonight, Thursday. Sunny 83, and Friday sunny with a high near 84. Oh, a correction. I was in the last segment of the previous hour talking about the 20th anniversary of the Killdozer attack in small town Granby, Colorado, and I referenced 20 years ago today, June 4th. Today's the 5th, so it was 20 years ago yesterday that historic event occurred. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. We got Liz noting that Emily was amazing to work with. As a first-time home buyer trying to navigate a complex and fast-paced market, Emily did a wonderful job in helping us find the perfect home and stay positive, even in a very competitive seller's market. She was professional, knowledgeable. She didn't pressure us to look at houses that would not work or go over our budget. We absolutely plan on working with her again if we ever need a realtor. Cannot recommend her enough. Yeah, I want to elaborate on the remark here that she didn't pressure us to look at houses that wouldn't work or go over our budget. You know, in fact, she works, if you will, the other way. She will help remind you if you start to do that. Because if you are looking for a home, and she's got up front, she wants to get a sense of what you're looking for, what your budget is. You know, I want this. I want, we want a backyard. We'd like it to be fenced. We need this many bedrooms. These are the things that we want. These are have-tos. These are what we really want. And then maybe if you aren't finding it right away, you start to get antsy and you start to become it's like when you've been single forever and then you start to, think, well, maybe this guy is not so bad after all. Even though there are red flags there because you're just lonely. And you just want to be in that relationship, and you start ignoring certain things and accepting things that you otherwise would not. Emily is there. She's not going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I'm tired of dealing with this person. I wish they'd just buy a house already. She will remind you, now listen, I know. I know you're wanting to get a place, but you did say that you wanted a room that could be a nursery, and this house does not have that, so you need to keep that in mind. That's what you get, that level of honesty with Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. There are a number of stories that are emerging regarding an interview that Joe Biden did with Time Magazine, and increasingly, what generally happens when you have a high-level elected official that gives an interview with a particular news outlet, and other news outlets write about that, it is because of the content in terms of the implications of policy or policy changes. It is to write about, this is, where the president views us based on his interview in terms of going to the country. With Biden, it's about all the confusing things that he says, the threats that he makes, the incoherent comments that he makes. These are the stories that come out of the original story. Senile Biden's interview with Time goes way off the rails, even challenges the reporter to a fight. He made a number of clearly false claims that even Time Magazine fact-checked. One of them, the false claim that wage increases have kept up with inflation. That's just not true. Quote, this is what Biden says, wage increases have exceeded what the cost of inflation is. Except he wasn't grammatically correct. His exact quote is, wage increases have exceeded what the cost of inflation. He then launched into a rant about shrinkflation, price gouging, saying you have everything from, this is the quote, you have everything from shrinkflation to what's going on in terms of the way in which they're artificially moving significantly to increase their profits. As Times fact check points out, nothing the president said was true. Wages have not outrun inflation over Biden's terms. There's also no evidence that the current situation is a result, of price gouging. Further shrinkflation, of course, is the result of inflation. It's an attempt by businesses not to make massive profits, but to help keep prices lower for the consumer. He also mixed up Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, which is mixing up world leaders and countries is something that has become commonplace with Biden. The reason that apparently Joe Biden was so confused and incoherent during this interview is because it wasn't behind closed doors. You see, if you want to see that Joe Biden, you have to be behind closed doors. This is what we've learned. Everyone who tells us how sharp and bright and brilliant and impressive he is intellectually tells us that that is something that emerges behind closed doors. And Time Magazine apparently had this interview in some format that wasn't behind closed doors, and this is why, of course, they saw and interviewed the Joe Biden that we're all accustomed to here. The reporter from Time noted the last 2 years of two-term presidents' tenure usually focused on foreign affairs. You are 81 years old and would be 86 by the time you left office. Large majorities of Americans, including in the Democrat Party, tell pollsters they think you're too old to lead. Could you really do the job as an 85-year-old man? To which he responded, I can do it better than anyone you know. You're looking at me. I can take you too. Oh, okay. He's not delusional at all.
Angry.
It is old man angry. And it's just, I can do it better than anyone you know. Okay.
I mean, actually, that really sounds like something a toddler would say.
Well, they say, and it actually is a theme oftentimes when comedians talk about aging, that when you become you get to that point, you sort of regress back to being a toddler. Your tantrums, you soil yourself, you are taken care of by other people. You don't necessarily know where it is you're going, and that it's true, which is part of the reason that there's humor in it. And so whenever Joe Biden does act like a toddler, and it's not just the age, because there are people that are his age that are sharp as can be. I mean, that you would never even guess that they were in their 80s. So it isn't an age thing as much as it is a senility situation here. And while people, when you do get old, I mean, there are some natural declines that occur, and for different people, it happens at different rates for a number of different reasons. But then you get the unfortunate circumstance in which, sometimes there is the acceleration of these problems because of dementia or Alzheimer's. And generally what happens when that occurs is people who love that family member try to create conditions for them so that they are most comfortable in their final days. This, of course, is much different than the approach the Biden family has taken, and that is to put him in the most confusing and the most stressful environment possible so that his final days here on Earth can, instead of being filled with just spending time with family in a comfortable and safe environment that doesn't cause any sort of emotional outburst, they decide to do quite the opposite because, as we're all told, the Biden family is just one giant love fest. It is the Waltons, today's version of it, of course, with just a few little spicy areas in there mixed in. There's a story from Daily Caller, Joe Biden's Time interview, full of senior moments. They note that he apparently, Time Magazine asked, what are the nature of your conversations with Israel or with the Israelis right now? Have you spoken with Bibi? That being Bibi Netanyahu. And he said, I have not spoken with Bibi since the attack on Sunday. Was it Sunday? He said before a White House communications director had to confirm, no, yes, very good. It was Sunday. So had to help him along with that. On another point, he seemed to lose track of where the director of the CIA, Bill Burns, had recently been. The magazine asking on what Hamas has done. Are the 8 U.S. hostages there in Gaza still alive? He said, we believe there are those that are still alive. I met with all the families, but we don't have final proof on exactly who's alive, who's not alive. And by the way, I've been calling for, we should have a ceasefire, period, and to get those hostages. That's the main reason why we push. Both the Israelis desperately want a ceasefire in order to get the hostages home. And it's a way to begin to break the momentum. And so that's why we're pushing hard for and where is our intelligence chief in? Where is he now? He said, causing White House National Security spokesman John Kirby to have to jump in and saying, yes, he's back, sir. He was just over in Europe, in Brussels, over the weekend. I mean, there's all this discussion about needing to get the audio of the transcripts of the investigation that Hur had regarding Biden taking classified documents illegally. And it is because there's concern, given that the White House acknowledged they edited the transcript, that what we saw in edited form is actually something that is in line with the reality of what occurred. But also, given that Robert Hur noted that one of the primary leading reasons that they did not recommend charges is because a jury probably wouldn't find him guilty because he's a senile old man and they'd feel sorry for him. And so given that is the reason, okay, well, then let's hear this audio. If that is his reason for it, we want to hear the evidence of that. But then when you read the transcripts, when you read how it is from this Time interview, that you have these people stepping in and saying, that's right, Mr. President. No, that's very good. This is what it almost is worse than potentially the audio is. Because, I mean, you get this sense as you read this, all of these people are just standing around handling him and just, they're there because he's not capable. And I guess this is obvious. We know this, but there's just something about it, seeing it over and over and over again and reading an interview. And when he gets lost and he's like, now, where's this person? When did this happen? What did I do? And well, this person steps in and, pats him on the head. Oh, yes, very good. Or this person, well, no, now, Mr. President, that's not exactly how it played out. I mean, I don't care how much you hate Donald Trump. There is something wrong with you if you are considering voting to put this guy in charge for another 4 years after the first of the year. So you're talking essentially 4.5 years. Look how much he has declined in 3.5. What madness. Biden says that world leaders are scared of another Trump presidency. So, again, this is the behind closed doors scenario that we're always told about. The world leaders apparently see the Joe Biden behind closed doors, who is very sharp and who is the leader of the free world and is responsible for all the wonderful things that are happening, though those wonderful things also apparently are behind closed doors, which we're not privy to that information, and that they are so afraid of Donald Trump that they're going to Biden, begging him to make sure that Trump doesn't win, because they recognize that Biden is full of successes and he's very sharp and articulate, and he's very calculating. So they know that he's the one guy who can definitely stop Donald Trump. The latest on that, and then there is a Wall Street Journal piece in which more and more lawmakers, in this piece in particular, dozens of lawmakers are saying, yeah, the guy's lost it. We've known Joe Biden for a long time. We've met with Joe Biden. We've collaborated with Joe Biden. He is gone. This person that is in the presidency today is not Joe Biden. For better or worse, he does not have his mental capabilities. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. This Biden interview with Time Magazine. Time asked, what do you say to Americans who are worried about it? Talking just about him and his mental capabilities. And he went back to a common response, and that's watch me. And, of course, this is probably back in the 80s, there was a shooting star Democrat hopeful by the name of Gary Hart. I think he was a senator for Massachusetts. And he was running in the primary. Heck, Joe Biden may have been in that cycle. And Gary Hart, he was seen as this guy is going to be president. He was apparently at the time relatively good looking. He was charismatic and so forth. And there were allegations that, and if I recall, these were Democrats in the primary that were lobbying these allegations, that he was having an affair. This was back when that was not a virtue, but instead something that demonstrated a character flaw. And he denied it, and the story goes, though there are variations of it, he claims that this isn't exactly how it played out, but the story goes that he challenged reporters, follow me around, and so I think one in particular did and caught him having an affair. And I think it was on a boat that he had named Monkey Business or something. And, it was this watch me moment or follow me, and it bit him because some people didn't. And I think about that when I hear Joe Biden saying, well, watch me. If you think that I'm not mentally fit, you just pay attention. Like, no, we are. Yeah, this is not perhaps a challenge that you should lay forth. Quote, watch me, look, name me a president that's gotten as much done as I've gotten done in my first 3.5 years. Now, if you're not putting on that the restriction that it is a good thing for the country, then I think he does potentially have an argument that he could be in the running for a president that has done more to the country in the first 3.5 years than any other president. Of course, they weren't positive things by any stretch of the imagination. But again, he did not put that limitation on his challenge there. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed. The First Alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10, Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Cloudy, high near 81 for the day, 60 for a low tonight, sunny, a high near 83 tomorrow, and then Friday sunny with a high near 84. All right, so there. What did I do with the story here? Before we get to the Wall Street Journal piece interviewing, and some on the record, and this isn't just Republicans, but Democrats that are finally publicly on the record talking about Joe Biden's senility and that he has, whether it's dementia or whatever. I mean, they don't ascribe any particular diagnosis as much as they just simply say, here's what's happening. This is our experience with the guy. Before that, however, Biden once again, this is a claim that he's made before, says world leaders are scared of another Trump presidency. Tell him you can't let Trump win. This was a new interview. Excuse me. He said that there's not a major international meeting that I attend there's not a single one, not a single major international meeting that he attends that before it's over, and I've attended many, he says, more than most presidents have in 3.5 years, that a world leader doesn't pull me aside and as I'm leaving say, he can't win, you can't let him win, Biden said after telling a story about the first G7 summit he attended as president. So Joe Biden is claiming that every single event, that there's not a single one this does not occur, in which there are world leaders, somebody pulls him aside and says you can't let him win. And this, of course, the idea behind it is because Donald Trump, as president of the United States, would lead to chaos in the world, and Joe Biden is the steady hand that has kept the balance in the world that would not exist if it were not for his presidency. Now, of course, you've got, you can look at results from the Trump administration, whether you like them or not, managed to eliminate the presence of ISIS in their stronghold in the Middle East, specifically Syria and Iraq, stopped the invasion of Ukraine that Putin began under the Obama administration, stopped the continued advancement and development of nuclear weapons and the delivery of those nuclear weapons by North Korea, stopped the building of that energy pipeline that Putin had planned to utilize to develop or to deliver natural gas to parts of Europe, something that Biden once got elected greenlit. Trump got NATO allies to put a little more skin in the game, making it stronger, something that no previous president had done. The Abraham Peace Accords, of course, crafting numerous peace deals between Israel and other Middle Eastern nations, put Iran on the brink of economic destruction, managed to secure our border, and while he didn't get, quote, Mexico to build a wall, much of that success was due to Mexico after threats by Trump when it came to certain trade deals and so forth. They then dispatched their military to prevent illegals from coming south of their border and traveling through Mexico to get to the United States. Now, these are just a few. You can't dispute that these things occurred. All of those things occurred under Trump. I mean, you can see why world leaders would desperately want to make sure that we didn't go back to that world. And, of course, they prefer Biden. And I thought, just one result of Joe Biden being president of the United States. Here's some of the headlines. UK. French, German leaders blast Biden over Afghanistan. Quote, we thought America was back. This from Newsweek. European Union, UK leaders voicing their criticism of how U.S. President Joe Biden handled America's withdrawal from Afghanistan, a stark difference from the praise they gave at the beginning of his presidency. French parliamentarian Nathalie Loiseau said, we lived a little bit the great illusion. We thought America was back, while in fact, America withdraws. I'm not going to read to you the whole story. I'll just give you some headlines from other news articles. This time, Politico in Europe. Disbelief and betrayal. Europe reacts to Biden's Afghanistan miscalculation. They wrote at the time, until Sunday, Europe thought Joe Biden was an expert on foreign policy. Now the American president's decision to allow Afghanistan to collapse into the arms of the Taliban has European officials worried that he has unwittingly accelerated what his predecessor, Donald Trump, started, the degradation of the Western alliance and everything it's supposed to stand for in the world. Now, this is Politico, of course. So all bad things that they have to cover on Biden, they got to throw Trump in there. They're like, this is what they. But the funny thing is, the comparison that they're utilizing Trump here in order to sort of trash on him is that our European allies are like, wait, we thought this was what Trump was going to do, yet Biden's the one who's screwing us over. The New York Times, August 18, 2021, Biden rattles UK with his Afghanistan policy. In Britain, the chaotic departure from Afghanistan has drawn comparisons not to helicopters flying out of Saigon, but to an earlier debacle, the 1956 Suez Canal, in which a humiliated Britain was forced to pull out of Europe, having failed to dislodge its nationalist leader. The problem is, Britain had very little say about the timing or tactics of the most recent withdrawal, even though it suffered the second most casualties among Western nations in the Afghanistan war after the United States. That has left British officials embarrassed and embittered at President Biden. Some say he behaved more like his predecessor, Donald Trump, than an ally who promised a new era of American partnership. Rory Stewart, a former British cabinet member with lengthy experience in Afghanistan, said, Biden hasn't just humiliated America's Afghan allies, he's humiliated his Western allies by demonstrating their impotence. Western Journal. Unprecedented dishonor. UK holds Biden in contempt for shameful and catastrophic Afghanistan withdrawal. Writing President Biden's mishandling of the Afghanistan withdrawal may yet prove to be the defining stretch of his administration. The Taliban's swift takeover of the country, which the president only weeks prior came just short of guaranteeing would not happen so quickly, has left behind or between 10,000 and 15,000 American citizens forsaken within the borders of a country now controlled by terrorists. The U.S. isn't the only nation with a presence in Afghanistan, however. Abandoning the country with such haste has also left thousands of foreign citizens from our friends and allies at risk as well. The UK Daily Mail reported on Wednesday that, quote, the UK faces a desperate race to evacuate 6,000 Britons and eligible Afghans amid scenes of stampeding crowds and Islamic fanatics. Because of this, on Wednesday, the British House of Parliament held Biden's handling of the situation in contempt, with lawmakers condemning Biden's withdrawal plan as, quote, catastrophic and shameful, according to the Telegraph. Now, this is a guy that the media allows to get away with claiming that he doesn't attend a single meeting, including those that happen immediately after Afghanistan, without one of these very world leaders pulling him aside and saying, oh, you have to stay president. You cannot let Donald Trump win. You want to talk about a complete and utter conflict with reality? Now, this is something the media should do. If the media is going to allow this claim to be made, I'm not even asking them to compare and contrast the histories when it comes to world chaos versus world stability between the Biden administration and the Trump administration. But how about this? It isn't difficult to figure out what world leaders might have said these things to him, according to him. He says that every one of the meetings, at least someone has pulled him aside that is a world leader and said this to him. So you just go back, look at what world leader meetings took place, and start contacting those world leaders and asking them, did you say this? That's not a difficult thing to do, is it? It's called journalism, in fact. But I suspect we all know why this doesn't happen, because we all know what the answer would be. Coming up, Wall Street Journal piece on the increasing number of lawmakers, some going on the record, that Joe Biden mentally not there. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com for all of your home loan needs. It is easy peasy, as you can imagine. Perhaps you can't. If, like me, you've gone through that process, you can imagine it. But if you've gone through the traditional process, then you probably can't. You can try and imagine it, but you will not be on point, most likely. It's easy to start. You go to IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com, you enter some basic info, and there's additional information there that could be useful to you as well. Once you get that info entered in, someone from the character team is going to get back with you and then get the process started. And they'll navigate you through it, and you are going to find that you are going to get so many benefits from it that you will not necessarily get through the traditional means. I know that was my personal experience for my home loan or refinancing as well. And I've actually done the refinancing, come to think of it, with IWantAGreatHomeLoan.com, because you do. 45 lawmakers sounding alarm on Biden's decline as cognitive struggles in private meetings exposed. President Biden has shown signs of poor cognitive performance in these meetings, and now a number of congressional lawmakers, not just Republicans, but some Democrats as well, are openly to the Wall Street Journal acknowledging this. Most of the people interviewed by the outlet who were critical of Biden's performance were Republicans, though there were some Democrats that said, yeah, the president's showing his age. Again, I don't think it's a fair characterization to say that it is his age. That is part of it. Along with age, oftentimes comes these cognitive issues. But these cognitive issues do not, to this degree, don't always come along with age, and sometimes they come well before people are in their 80s. I mean, there are instances, people in their 40s, that, though it may not be nearly as common, that are diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. So it isn't the age, but it is the mental decline that is oftentimes more likely with someone his age that is the problem here. Among the revelations in the Wall Street Journal, when meeting with congressional leaders back in January to negotiate a deal to send additional funding to Ukraine, Biden spoke so softly at times that people couldn't hear him. 5 people familiar with the meeting told the Wall Street Journal. The president read from notes to make obvious points, paused for extended periods of time, and even closed his eyes for so long that some people in the meeting wondered if he had, quote, tuned out. In February, when Biden met one-on-one with Speaker Mike Johnson, the president said that a recent policy change by him that jeopardized some big energy projects was only a study, according to 6 people who were told at the time about what Johnson recalled from the meeting. Johnson was concerned that the president had forgotten about the details of his own policy. So what you had here is, Johnson talking about this policy thing, and it was something that the Biden administration has done, and Biden was confused, and he did not remember that he made that policy change. He, oftentimes, again, common with these mental challenges, was thinking back to a previous time when it was just a study. Last year, when Biden was negotiating with House Republicans to lift the debt ceiling, his demeanor and command of the details appeared to change from one day to the next. Then Speaker Kevin McCarthy and 2 others familiar with the talk said he appeared sharp with loose and spontaneous exchanges with Republicans on one day and then mumbled and seemed to rely on notes on the other day. Again, not uncommon for somebody that is in his apparent condition. McCarthy said, I used to meet with him when he was vice president. I'd go to his house. He is not the same person. Of course, White House spokesperson Andrew Bates said, quote, congressional Republicans, foreign leaders, and nonpartisan national security experts have made clear in their own words that President Biden is a savvy and effective leader who has a deep record of legislative accomplishments. Now in 2024, House Republicans are making false claims as a political tactic that flatly contradict previous statements made by themselves and their colleagues. Well, yes, see, there is some truth to this. It could very well be that a lawmaker who today acknowledges that Joe Biden is in severe mental decline or well past it, but 20 or 30 years ago talked about how sharp he was. That's how these things work. In fact, what is supposed to be a challenge to the credibility of people like former Speaker McCarthy here actually is just reaffirming what it is that McCarthy is saying, and that is Joe Biden is not what he once was. So when Andrew Bates from the White House says that, these same Republicans have in the past talked about him being sharp. Well, back when he was, yes, they did. This is their point. They knew him once upon a time. This is not the same person. The Wall Street Journal notes that more recently, or this is Fox News report on the Wall Street Journal report, during a campaign event in Detroit last month, Biden suggested he was vice president again. This is during the COVID-19 pandemic, which of course started during the Trump administration. Then he said that, Obama sent him to Detroit to fix the COVID problem and so forth. During a Rose Garden event celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month the following day, Biden initially said one of the U.S. hostages held in Gaza was a guest at the White House at that time. He's mixed up to Hispanic cabinet secretaries and mixed up world leaders. February fundraiser in New York talked about speaking to German Chancellor Helmut Kohl at a 2021 group. Of course, he was dead at that point. And this also is not unusual for Biden to claim that he has talked to people that are dead, or he tries to bring people up on stage that are dead. It's clear. We all know it. And the Democrats, their response is to either once again claim that behind closed doors, he's the sharpest guy in the world, and show a 20-second montage of Donald Trump doing what all Americans do and, stumble over a word here or there, putting it together, claiming that that proves that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. I guess in November, we'll find out to some degree what the American people accept as reality versus just this world of make-believe. All right, tomorrow we have a number of audio bits that are somewhat fun we didn't get to today. One of them, Joni Ernst on a hot mic talking about Joe Biden, saying that's why you never trust someone whose uncles were eaten by cannibals. So we'll have that tomorrow plus more. Christy Fulnecki, author of the week. I'm Nick Reed. Glenn Beck's next.